Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Radiant Lawcast. I'm your host, Senna, and joining me today, we have a very special guest, the head of delivery at Radiant Law, Mr. Teague. Hi,
hey, Senna. Yeah, good, thank you.
Good.
Good today.
I didn't realize that, but when you walked in here wearing a navy shirt and then blue jeans and white sneakers, that we matched from head to toe.
I am just trying to copy you. You're the most stylish guy I know, so I feel like I'm doing okay.
Can I just say that we didn't plan this? Ian just rocked up stealing my look. So we didn't slack each other and say, hey, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good. It's summer in Cape Town.
I think super warm.
Everyone's an optimist, right?
Yes.
Love summer.
Love summer. Cool. We're going to chat today about contract management as well as managed legal services. But before we get into that, I want to chat about your journey. Why managed legal services? Why commercial contracting and not sort of the traditional path?
Yeah, so I've been at Radiant for about 8 years now, 8.5 years. I think when I joined, I was a 3-year qualified attorney. I didn't join to kind of do managed legal services. I don't think it was really a thing when I joined 2015 Radiant. It was to do lots of technology contracts, to become a better contracts lawyer.
Yeah.
And then we kind of really discovered this thing called managed legal services, and it really kind of took off mid-2015.
Okay.
And I just loved it. I just love doing lots of contracts. I love working with clients, solving lots of different problems. So I've just stuck around for a while, I suppose. I just loved it.
8 years is, you're probably one of the longest serving people at Radiant.
Yeah.
You're still young, but you're one of the oldest people in the firm.
Thank you. Yeah. 37 now. But I don't know if that's young or old. It's old for Radiant, right?
Old for Radiant.
Yeah.
We're like a kid's crusade, as Alex always says. Cool, we'll get right into it. You did mention that, contracting is kind of the bedrock of what we do at Radiant. And contracting is kind of what drives most businesses. It's the bedrock of commercial business work in general. Now, certain challenges do come up when we're managing contracts. I want to chat about some of the ones that you've observed in the industry, having been around for as long as you have.
Yeah, I mean, we say contracting is kind of the lifeblood of a business.
Yeah.
There's no real value in the contract itself. There's value in the relationship and what comes of the relationship.
And the contracts govern the commercial relationships.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you kind of need a contract. I mean, you got to have a contract. You got to know what you're getting or selling or how much you're paying or how much you're getting paid. So absolutely critical part of a business. Challenges that come up, I suppose. We used to say at Radiant back in the day, our purpose was to fix the contracting problem. Because we saw that there was tons of contracts and gosh, it wasn't being done very well. And I think that's generally true for most businesses. No one's really owning contracting. No one's trying to fix how we do contracting. And it's kind of weird given that it is the lifeblood of a business. Why wouldn't anyone really try and pay attention?
And that's across in-house teams, the law firms themselves.
Totally.
No one picked it up. Oh, actually, we've got a problem here. We've got thousands of contracts per year. How do we solve the challenges that come about?
Exactly.
Okay. And then what I wanted to get, we spoke about high volumes and what that comes with. That's part of the big one. Now, at Radiant, we try for the most part to make our clients' lives easier in that regard. Now, when it comes to contract management, what are some of the, I won't say challenges, because we've identified some of the challenges being, volumes and the complexities that often come up. How do we try and navigate those to make our clients' lives easier?
Yeah, so high volumes, it's real. We're December right now. It's a quarter end and a year end. So it is nuts, right? Sales teams are trying to sell everything to hit targets and get commissions. Procurement teams are trying to burn their budgets before they get into the next annual year cycle. So it's just coming at us hot and fast.
Yeah.
I was on the receiving end of this week. I got an email and then a chaser after half an hour. It's like that kind of thing, right? And I think our team, right? I don't know if you've got any of this, but I think our team are experiencing that right now. So it's hot and fast. And so we just see more and more contracts. I think we're probably doing more than 1,000 new contracts every month across Radiant right now, which is crazy. So we got to figure out how to tackle those challenges.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of strategies that should come into how we do contracting really smartly in a high volume environment. It's something we should really pay attention to.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we try and do for our clients. And I think sometimes it feels like sometimes we're the only ones doing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. We kind of getting the input from the sales team, the procurement team, the legal team, and trying to be the ones who kind of bring it together to make contracting in a high volume environment better
and faster. I know we put a lot of emphasis on making sure that we turn high volume contracts at a very fast speed. Now, with that, some of the challenges that come with high volume, high complexity, and trying to deliver at a very fast speed, most people will look to technology to solve some of these problems. I mean, we've spoken a lot about AI, and I watched Terminator growing up. I always use this example whenever I'm here about the rise of the machines and
Skynet, right?
Yeah, Skynet. I mean, I always look at what's happening in the world of in the AI environment. I think you shared a couple of updates and memes and all the jokes that came from the world of AI. But a lot of people are looking at technology to try and overcome some of the challenges that come up, especially the volumes and trying to speed. What do you make of the use of technology in a managed legal services context?
Yeah, so I remember when I joined Radiant, I heard that we used technology and was blown away with how much technology we use. I think anyone who joins us is kind of like, I know my way around technology. And I mean, then they discover how much is going on.
You think you know Word, and then you go, no, you really don't know Word.
You just think, at least I got Word. No, you don't. You have no idea how to use Word. So, we use tons of technology, and you kind of use the right solutions for the problem. But I think the danger is that people just try and solve this with technology. Just try and throw some tech at a problem without actually trying to understand what's the problem, what's the right solution. Could we try something first before we just throw money and technology at a problem? And we've seen so many technological implementations at in-house teams just go way wrong.
Yeah.
Because if you just throw technology at something, we've seen it years. I've seen it over and over and over again.
Over and over and over.
Yeah.
Time after time. But one of the things that we try and make use of a lot is document automation.
Yeah.
English.
Automation, right?
Doc automation.
Yeah.
Not my first language.
Should automate that sentence.
So one of the things we try and use so that we don't get into the environment of free drafting and things that often lead to mistakes, and to speed up the process, is to automate the process of generating agreements and templates and all of that stuff. How have you found it useful in terms of meeting our clients' needs?
Yeah, good question. So document automation's been around since the 90s.
Yeah.
This is not new tech. It's got better. And when I joined Radiant, we were using document automation. I think we were just using Contract Express back then in 2015.
Okay.
And we were generating first drafts. Any new contract we create, we try and do that through document automation, because that gives you consistency, right? You're using the right template.
Yeah.
You get to do it quickly because you're doing it through a questionnaire. And so you can be pretty confident that what you generate at the end of the day is pretty good, right? Because you kind of automate this recurring template. So that's been around for a long time. It's kind of shocking how few companies have actually put document automation into play.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know if you found that across the kind of work you've done.
I have. And it's always a surprise when you speak to clients and they're like, oh no, we don't even know the right template that's being used at this moment in time. Then you have to go through archives and, what's the latest one saved in some folder
or on your desktop,
somewhere on the desktop, right? And then that's the one that you have to send out, and then you may send it out and they're like, oh no, that's missing a few provisions. It doesn't include what we need. It doesn't meet current business needs. And that's always a surprise for me as well. And I'm like, well, if you could have a tool where whenever someone needs an agreement or a template, they can just populate it accordingly and then generate the most recent version that we were currently using as a business.
Yeah,
this solves a lot of our problems.
It's a best practice template.
It's accurate, reliable. So I've come across it a couple of times, and it goes beyond doc automation for me, because sometimes you'll be on a call with a client, you're discussing something, you speak some of the tools that you use, and then you say, oh, well, no, I can just do this, the click, and then I've solved problem which manually would have taken someone 2 hours.
Yeah,
and then they're super impressed, like, oh, maybe let's get onto that trade.
Right. Yeah. It kind of feels weird because they're really good. Document automation is something in-house teams, law firms, everyone who generates contracts should be deploying, right? For kind of your recurring type of contract. We want everyone to be doing that. It doesn't feel like we're being super innovative when we're saying, hey, you should automate your recurring template. Right? It's like, that's pretty well like a no-brainer. And it's been great to see in the industry some renewed attention recently, over the course of this year, on document automation, and people kind of going, yeah, I mean, we kind of got sucked into the Gen AI hype, you know, and have gone, oh wait, let's start automating our templates as a start. It's a really good place.
Something that's been around for, as you said, over 20 something years. So not too bad. But I mean, we speak a lot about templates, and perhaps someone watching this might be thinking, well, I want to automate my templates and, you know, use all the various tools. Someone who might ask you, okay, how can I get a good template? What makes a good template? What would you say to them? What should they prioritize?
Yeah, and you're right to raise templates first, because you got to get the right template before you deploy document automation. Because you could automate some very bad templates that are going to make you really quick at generating bad contracts.
Yeah, so you'll be very quick. You're using the tech, you're populating it right, but then the template itself is not the best.
Right, and you're just booting the pain down the line, because you're going to just pick it up through negotiations and it's going to be brutal. So what you really want for your recurring high volume type contracts is short, clear, reasonable, relevant. That's got to be true. It's like
short, clear, reasonable, relevant.
It's a sexy little...
Yeah, it's fun.
So short, right? I mean, there's a number of templates we've seen which are like 50 pages. They don't need to be 50 pages. I've even seen clients with 50-page templates labeling them their short form. It's nuts, right? That doesn't count. It actually has to be short. So we're talking less than 10 pages. It doesn't. We're talking single figures here. It's not short unless it's in single figures.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy. I know certainly I thought that was crazy, but it's real. We've done it for some clients. 40-page templates down to 6, and they're used across thousands of contracts. They're battle tested. Short, clear. You've got to be able to understand what's going on here, right? This is plain language. This is, don't just chuck legalese into a contract.
Notwithstanding the foregoing.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Both parties hereby acknowledge and declare on this here day.
And everything's and or.
Yeah.
And the grammar, it's wild, right? It's got to be clear. It's got to be reasonable. Now, this is, I think, where lawyers have historically struggled.
Yes.
Right? Just throw out anything and see what happens, you know?
That's something that I learned, you know, when I started at Radian, and I'm not sure if you remember this, but I think the first matter I ever did, I think you had a look at it for me.
Okay.
And, you know, it was one of those things where you come from an environment during articles, and we speak about it, where it's like, it's me versus you.
Right.
Contracting isn't like that. We're trying to build a relationship.
Yeah.
And when you speak about being reasonable, I relate to that. I'm like, oh, well, if we're creating a relationship, why are we fighting? You know, why am I trying to be, absolutely no. Maybe let me be reasonable and try and, you know, create a relationship that works for both of us and not for me alone.
Absolutely. I mean, think about how we're trained, right? And think of the shows we watch. It's very adversarial. You kind of have a winner and a loser, right? You're in court, your concept is there's a winner and a loser. And you think when you come to negotiation, there's a winner and a loser. And it's so easy to lose sight of the fact that you're trying to create a great relationship here, and the contract's a vehicle. And so if you throw out a whole bunch of unreasonable things, how do you think you're going to go along there, right? Like, I mean, I remember thinking like this. We used to act for a lot of customers, so procuring lots of things. And man, I used to be so vicious and aggressive and unreasonable towards suppliers.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know, told them their arguments don't make sense and that sort of thing. Young, arrogant lawyer. And remember those days. And then I acted for some suppliers, and suddenly I saw the other side, and I thought, oh my goodness, the things I've been saying were so hard to stomach for these suppliers. And it cost me like weeks of negotiation, hours and hours of calls.
Time you could have used for something else.
Time I could have used, but frankly, that delayed the relationship from kind of getting going.
Yeah.
And so the value not realized for the client for both sides. And so if I'd just been a little bit more reasonable, Matt,
we would have made a whole...
Then we're unlocking that for everyone.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. And at times, it's often very difficult to sell that to some clients where you're saying, hey, look, let's try and push a reasonable aspect to this negotiation. But, you know, at Radian, we try to learn as we go along, but we also try to teach our clients and guide them in a particular way. But we've spoken about coming back to the overall contract management. We receive very high volumes, varying complexities. In the past, I've had an episode with Robin. Robin is you know, she
Queen of Intake,
and she was, you know, the Queen of Intake on one of our biggest clients.
Yeah.
Now, she said that, look, intake for us will solve so many problems down the line. Now, the intake process is the receipt of instructions, making sure we collect all the relevant information so that the lawyer who's allocated the work has everything they need to proceed. And you save a lot of time, and you save, burning the house down in the future if you know what you're actually dealing with. Now, in terms of the intake process in itself, I want to just chat to you about how important it is in the work that we do in managed legal services and, supporting clients with their commercial contracting needs.
Yeah. I mean, I think I only understood intake, or some people call it triage, when I was given the example of a hospital. Because, hospitals have been doing this for, decades and decades. You kind of walk into a hospital emergency room and you've got a stub toe or an axe in your head. Normally there's a senior doctor attending who's going to say, stub toe, just take a seat. Axe in the head, let me tell you where to go, right? I can direct. I know what to do. Now, what we try and do in intake is actually try and simplify that, but all that kind of knowledge in the senior doctor's head, put it through a process.
Okay.
And just drive a whole bunch of process against what the business is asking for. And if we can do that, we can go understand what the support needed is, and then triage it to the right team, the right lawyer, and that lawyer knows what they need to do straight away. And that just means that business is getting support quicker, and they're getting the right kind of support. So it's not so much to make, intake isn't to make our life easier. It's kind of an enabler. And when people start to work on intake, I often say, imagine let's use another metaphor, a 4x100 meter relay. Intake's kind of like the first runner. And if intake is done right, you just enable the rest of the value stream to take off and to fly.
That's a brilliant analogy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Use that going forward. Cool. Yeah. Because if the first person drops a baton stick or is slow off the races or doesn't, get away well, the rest of the races,
there's just repercussions throughout.
Usain Bolt wouldn't win that Olympic 4x100 if one of the first runners or Johan Blake doesn't get his part right.
I'm all for comparing us to Jamaica athletics team, right?
That's how fast we are.
Half-day turnarounds, right?
Yeah. I'll speak about the use of data. We use a lot of data at Radiant, so it's unusual for law firms to prioritize, okay, how many instructions are we getting? How long are things taking? How many times are we touching it? How many times is it out to the supplier? How long does it take for business to get back to us? How long do we take with it? We use a lot of data, and data informs us of a lot of things. We can use it to continuously improve. Then we say, okay, we've picked up that perhaps there's something that's not quite right with this particular metric. And then we can think about how we can improve. Continuous improvement is a bedrock of Radiant. It's fundamental to what we do. How would you say that data is useful in terms of in an overall contract management scenario, managed legal services? How important is leveraging the use of data to support our clients?
It's massive. It's absolutely massive. We find that, to be honest, lots of our clients just don't have access to data, or it's not tracked, or they don't have the right software in play. Luckily, we put a big emphasis on understanding what's going on, and we have to. And so we just got mountains of data to analyze. Now, it's not fun just analyzing data, right? It's a means to an end here. It's how do we continually improve the contracting process? That's our gig. So we'll often look at kind of a bunch of charts or numbers and go, well, let's just look at this from this angle or from that angle, because it's going to give us different kinds of insights. Like how many contracts are we picking up from India team, for example, and what types of contracts, and are those intake forms coming through completed correctly, or are we seeing errors? And have we seen those kind of errors? Maybe we can give that kind of training or improve the intake form that little bit. And it really does inform what we do next. And we play that back to our clients, because clients are often starved of data. So we can play it back to them, but not just a raw set of numbers. It's like these numbers are telling us these things, and then we think we need to do these things, often with their help, to kind of just make contracting better. I kind of see contracting as a bit of an organism. You never solve it, right? You're always doing more contracts. That's what we're seeing. Just make it better inch by inch.
And the reporting is very important, because when we dial it back to clients, we say, okay, look, we picked up that perhaps there's less volumes this month. There was more volumes. Did you pick it up on your side? Why is the reason? And then they'll often say, oh, we didn't know that. We'll look into it. And then it's, this was a reason. And then we can help them problem solve and troubleshoot some of the issues that they face internally as a business.
Yeah.
One of the last points I want to chat about is, we did speak about the complexities, the volumes. That does come, in my opinion, with administrative burdens.
Yep.
Now, I won't say burdens per se, but, once we, from an MLS perspective, we would assist our clients with the contract negotiation process right up until signature.
Yeah.
But that's not the end of the road, is it?
No.
There's life after a contract has been signed, because you intend to use the contract after it's been signed.
Yeah.
How would you recommend business leverage a signed contract? Because oftentimes, with high volumes especially, it's signed, it's filed away, it's forgotten.
Hopefully it's at least saved somewhere.
Hopefully it's saved somewhere.
Crazy how often it's not.
Yeah, and then we have to, do you have this draft? Do you know where it is? And typically we would, we'd have all the archives and all the information of work that we've done. But some businesses don't have that. How would you advise businesses that want to leverage a signed agreement? What measures would you recommend that they implement in order to, be able to use a contract effectively after execution?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, different types of contracts. We've seen lots of companies just throw technology again at this. The latest CLM implementation, and we've seen CLM implementations go wrong and go wrong and go wrong, and they're very expensive.
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful about just throwing money and technology at this. But you also need to think carefully about what do we need to know in the contracts ordinarily going forward in order to manage this relationship well.
Yeah.
So there are some basics. Like you kind of want to know when the contract's up for renewal so that you can make a decision. You probably need kind of a period before that. You kind of want to know what you can call off if there's a rate card. You kind of want to have some data here that you can draw on, that you know what to do with that contract. You don't want it to disappear.
Yeah.
It's amazing how often it is hard to find. How many times have we gone on projects?
Yeah.
Supplier, could you please send us the contract? We know there's one. We just, no one can find it.
It was signed some time ago, maybe 3 years ago, and it's up for renewal. We don't know what we agreed.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you just have a look there and let us know if there's something?
So I think it's basics. You want to establish kind of database your contracts. You kind of want it to be hopefully well managed. It's very easy for it to get out of hand.
Yeah.
And so you want to give some basic thought to how we might do this in our organization. There's a lot of tools companies probably have already in play. Like if you've got kind of Office 365, you've got some basic solutions there that you can put into play that's going to do a ton of the heavy lifting for you. But don't try and solve it. One fix-all CLM.
Yeah. I mean, different scenarios require different solutions because, so for example, contracts that need renewals, you might need to have some sort of renewal notification. Yeah. So it's very context specific, and I understand what you're saying, that there's no one fix all. There's no one solution to all
contracts you're not going to need to hang on to for very long.
No.
You know what I mean? I think of non-disclosure agreements often will have like a 1-year term or something like that. You don't need to hang on to that thing for all of life. Some basic record where you can call up, you can find it. But you know what I mean? You're not going to need to know what is in every provision of that contract.
That's brilliant. My last point, I call you the chief because chief at Radiant.
I think I call you chief too.
Yeah. But I mean, it's testament to, I guess from my perspective, kind of understanding whenever we have a problem or solution, like, you chat to Ian. Ian probably knows, what to do in this scenario. And it happens from, literally, I'll speak to colleagues. I'll have, I had a problem last week with something that I was doing, with some outsourcing agreement I was busy with. I reached out to my account leader, said, hey dude, listen, got a few questions, need some help. I need to chat to Ian first. Because kind of the understanding is you've been there, you've seen it all. What are some of the biggest challenges, or the biggest challenge, if there's only one, that you've come across in your 8 years at Radiant, running an MLS, a managed legal service, and assisting clients manage their commercial contract?
Yeah, so definitely haven't seen it all. Jesus, not at all. I feel like we're solving novel problems together every day.
Everything.
And I think that's important.
Yeah.
Right? Learning, getting better every single day. I think, it's an interesting one. I think my perspective now, not doing that many contracts myself, my biggest challenge right now is I don't know the intricate details of the contract.
Okay.
Or the team who's doing the contracts, but I can give a kind of maybe somewhat objective helicopter type view perspective to solving problems. And I think that's helpful. I've got to be very cautious about not telling teams the answer, to be honest, because telling is dangerous.
It
right?
is.
Helping teams ask questions, posit potential solutions, I think is helpful. And I think this is where team comes in, because I wasn't trained to function as part of a team. Like, lawyers are often trained to operate independently.
Yeah. In a partnership model, that's how it would work, right? It's you and you're in a silo and got your target.
Which is funny because you call it a partnership, but anyway, you operate like separately, and you kind of like bring people alongside to further your cause, and then you don't work with them and you bring someone else to further your cause.
Yeah.
So I think there's tons of challenges coming in contracting, and I think solving them together is the way forward.
Okay. Teamwork
Makes the dream work.
Well, Chief, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Senna.
Cheers, everyone. It's been another episode of the Radiant Lawcast. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe. Catch you next time. Thank you.
Catch you next time.